Hi, I'm Ryan Skinner, and I'm one of 3 police canine handlers with the city of Shawnee. I've been working at the police department for about 12 and a half years.
So how long have you had a canine?
I've had Canine Grim for about 2.5 years.
So how much training did it require to get him?
When I got Canine Grim, we went through a 6-week handler class with the dog in Indiana, and then we came back to Kansas City and trained for about 6 to 8 more weeks before we were able to go through our certifications to be able to work the road.
Does your dog have any special diet that he has to eat?
Grim does not have a special diet, but we feed him the same food every day. He doesn't get special treats or any table scraps from the house.
How do you care for your dog at your house?
Canine Grim stays in the backyard. He has a 6x10 kennel in the backyard that he stays in if he's not roaming the backyard, and then if it's really hot or really cold, he has a kennel in the garage that he can stay in.
What does your dog do for the police department?
Canine Grim is a dual-purpose canine, and he searches for explosives, and he searches and tracks and locates bad people.
Where does your dog go when you go on vacation?
If I go out of town on vacation or for training, he goes to a kennel in Bonner Springs that we can use that they can either close him in or close him out, and they don't have to handle him at the kennel.
Is your dog tamed and mean or friendly?
Grim's a fairly friendly dog, not too crazy, but we don't let random people just walk up and pet him or play with him or do anything with him. We like to keep them to ourselves just because they are trained to bite, and we don't want somebody to get accidentally bit.
What commands do you use? What language do you use?
Canine Grim was trained in Europe, so he was trained with Dutch commands. So we use mostly Dutch commands and some English commands.
Has the dog helped you make any arrests?
Grim has been very successful in helping us locate multiple felony suspects and taking them into custody while we're on patrol calls, helping our city and other cities in the Kansas City area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Officer Sean Arnold. I work at the Shawnee, Kansas Police Department Canine Unit.
How long have you been a canine police?
I've been a canine officer for going on 8 years now.
How many canines do you have?
Currently, I have 3 dogs.
What are all their names?
Okay, so my first 2 dogs were Canine Jope. He's retired. And my second dog was Canine Geo. He recently retired earlier this year. And my third dog is my current partner. His name is Canine Marks.
What kind of dogs are they?
Okay, so all 3 dogs are Belgian Malinois. However, I do believe there's obviously some German Shepherd in there at some point in time. I don't think there's ever really a pure Belgian Malinois anymore. Typically, a Belgian Malinois weighs about 40 to 50 pounds. I know my dog is close to 83 pounds, and our other bomb dog, Canine Grim, is close to about that same weight. So that's a way heavy Malinois.
After how many years do they retire?
We try to get as much work out of them as we can. However, we don't want to work the dog into the ground to where he can't even get back up into your truck. So it depends on the dog, and it depends on whatever kind of genetics the dog has. If they develop any kind of hip problems early, obviously we want them to have a good retirement life, so we might retire a dog at 4 years, where if a dog is used as much, that dog might be able to work 10 years. So it just kind of depends on the dog, anything that could pop up health-wise. However, if we could get at least 8 years, we're a happy program.
What do you do with the dogs after they retire?
So in Shawnee, we get the option of keeping our partners, which is probably the choice many agencies do. You work with these dogs, you live with these dogs, you do everything with these dogs. So it's kind of taking that pet to the next level when you actually work with your partner. So it's a little tough to pass that dog on. In my case, I can say Geo saved my life at least once. So for me, it's like, okay, time to retire, bud. We're just not going to give you up to a shelter or somebody like that. We're just going to keep the dog. Also, they're kind of quirky with commands, and they're, former work dogs. So it's a little easier for us to handle them into retirement, a little safer for everybody if we keep them.
What roles do your dogs play for the police department?
So I'm a narcotic dual-purpose canine handler. So my dogs find drugs, not the kind you get when you're sick from Walmart. It's the drugs that we just say no to, the hard drugs that we want off the streets. And then he also is an apprehension tool. So if a bad guy or girl robs a bank, they usually call us, and our dog goes out and finds them and apprehends them.
Are your canines friendly towards people, or?
Yeah, it just depends on the dog. And I'd say Canine Marks right now is a pretty friendly dog. He's a big dog, so a lot of people might get a little nervous around him. And if they kind of stance weird, he might think they're playing or see him as a threat. So he can get a little weirded out like that. But overall, he's a pretty friendly dog. Jope, my first dog, extremely friendly. I could just take him off lead places. Geo, the middle dog, was a little sketchy at times. I wouldn't trust him just anywhere, even to the day he retired. However, he's kind of retired a little nice. But I'd say, for the most part, friendly.
So do they become your family pet?
Yes, so Geo and Jope are both my family pet now. They're former partners, but they're both at my house now, probably laying on their dog beds watching ESPN Sports Center as we speak. They both transferred pretty nice into retired life. Marks doesn't get that luxury when we get home. He just got home from work. When you get home from school, typically you're pretty tired. When he gets home from work, he's pretty tired, so he goes to the kennel and just kind of chills out there.
Did you have to train your canines to be around your family?
Absolutely. You just don't bring a dog home and just let them into the house. You kind of ease into it a little bit. First, you're trying to gain a good relationship with your dog. So typically the handler will feed the dog initially at first. But the dog's, keen on senses. So he hears things. He hears my kids. I have 2 kids. He hears them in the house. So he's curious. And eventually I'll let them come out to the kennel and say hi through the kennel just to ensure it's safe. I might sometimes throw like a baseball glove nearby the kennel or something else just so he can kind of start smelling those smells and get used to it. But as of like right now, I've had Marks since March and he's never really been able to run the house free. Geo and Jope, on the other hand, are completely fine. Jope will sleep with us, and typically Geo will sleep on my son Landon's bedroom floor. So.
Can your wife ever control the dogs?
Yeah, she's actually a pretty good handler herself, so she does really good with Jope. Jope initially kind of retired a little young because he only had one job as a single-purpose dog, which he'd just find bad drugs. So she actually learned how to handle him and can handle him from time to time. Geo, she can give him commands. She can tell him to do whatever he needs to do. Marks is a little too strong for her. She's not really able to handle him, and he's still kind of a puppy per se. So if he sees something and wants to go for it, he's strong enough to get away from her or just pull her down. So right now I'm the only one that handles Marks at the house.
Have any of your canines ever gotten hurt on the job?
Yeah, it happens quite a bit. Jope never really got hurt too bad other than like a pulled muscle doing a narcotic search on the ice. Geo, on the other hand, had poor teeth from the beginning, and it was all just genetics. But he would go on a bite and would snap teeth regularly, and that's what made Geo retire young. Was he only had one partial canine, which those are the pointy teeth that they use to apprehend somebody. He only had one partial left, so anytime we'd send him to go find a bad guy, he wouldn't be able to hold on.
How long do your dogs work their shifts? Like, how long are their shifts?
Our shifts are about 8 hours long, but being a canine officer, you never really work a normal shift. I think we've been on since about 9:30 this morning, so you never really get your set time, but there's days that can be a little shorter here and there. But on the average, I'd say 8 or 9 hour shifts.
How often do you and your canine get called out when you're not on duty?
When we're not on duty, I'd say when it rains, it pours, and when it's dry, it's dry. There was one point where I was on call for 10 days and I got called out 8 of the 10 days in the middle of the night. Last month I was on call and didn't get called out once in 10 days. This month it's just been kind of sporadic, so nothing too consistent. Like I said, when we get called out, we usually get called out quite a bit.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Canine officers are trained to bite and hold, not to chew or release quickly. Most canines can jump as high as 6 feet into the air to clear objects like fences or obstacles, while other dogs can only jump a few inches off the ground. There are several breeds of dogs that are used for canine work, including German Shepherds, Doberman Pinschers, Bloodhounds, and the Belgian Malinois. A canine has the ability to smell 100,000 times stronger than a human. Canines often live with their handlers. This promotes a better bond, but they are not treated as a pet. A handler's job is to stay focused on the dog and read the dog's body language. There are many different jobs a canine officer is trained for, such as search and rescue, trailing and tracking, enforcing public order, and detection dogs. A properly trained police dog saves 600 to 1,000 man-hours every year. A canine handler's vehicle is equipped with a special compartment for the canine to ride in, and it's right next to the space for suspects, which is very intimidating for the suspect. German Shepherds were used in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War.
Good boy. Good boy, Marks.
$1630, copy, Charlie.